Today I'm going to show you how to make and design two different faux leather keychains, and this is a very beginner friendly project. Even if you're not a beginner, I hope you learned something new today. If we've never met before, hi, my name is Nisha. I'm the creator behind the Little Craft Nest YouTube channel, and I'm very excited to craft with you today. There are many different types of faux leather you can choose from, and sometimes it can be a little overwhelming. So there's the chunky glitter, there's shiny, there's patterned, but today I'll be using pebbled, or also known as textured faux leather. It's relatively thin faux leather and very easy to work with. Here's a list of other supplies you'll need for our project today. Let's jump onto the computer and get started. We're going to start off with a new project in Cricut Design Space. And for this project, you'll have to upload the SVG called Crafting Queen. So if you don't know how to do that, go over to Upload, click on Upload Image, and then you can drag and drop that file into Cricut Design Space and click on Continue. You can add some tags if you want, and then click on Upload. We're gonna shrink this SVG down and put it over to the side for now. This design here will be cut out of heat transfer vinyl, and we're gonna put this on top of our faux leather keychain. So let's design our keychain. So go over to Shapes, and we're gonna select a circle. And right now it's sized at 2 inches. Make sure that lock is on, because if you unlock it, you're gonna end up with an oval. So under size, we're gonna change this to 2.5 inches. And then above your layers panel, click on duplicate. So now we want to connect these two circles together. So we're gonna go over to Shapes and select the square. And this time we want to unlock our square. So between width and height, click on that unlock button. And I'm gonna size this to a width of 0.5, and we'll do a height of about 1.6. Now, if your rectangle is slightly bigger or slightly smaller, it's not gonna matter a whole lot as long as you have a tab here. So now we want to place this in between our two circles, and you're gonna have to move things around a little bit. So we're gonna have a rectangle just overlapping our circles just a little bit. So you can pull your circles up and down until you just have a bit of an overhang there. Now these don't look perfectly lined up, so we're gonna center them. So select all your shapes here and then go up to Align, and we're gonna center this horizontally. And now everything is straight, just the way we want it to be. So I still have my circle, my rectangle, and my other circle all selected. If you look over in the layers panel, you can see what shapes you have selected. So I don't have the Crafting Queen SVG selected because it's not highlighted in green, but I do have the two circles and the rectangle. So with those 3 shapes selected, we're gonna go down to the bottom and click Combine. And you can either click on Weld or Unite. I have stopped using the weld feature because this is a permanent change, but I can show you for a second. So if I click on Weld, all 3 of those shapes have become one shape, and that's what I want. But if I want to make any adjustments later on in the future, let's say I wanted these circles a little closer together, I could not go over here and undo the weld. That would be permanent after I save this. But for now, I can click on that undo button. So now my shapes are all separated again. So I'm gonna highlight those shapes again so that they're all selected. This time I'm gonna go down to Combine and click Unite. And you'll notice it did the same thing. We have all our shapes combined. But if you go over to the layers panel and click on that arrow beside the word Unite, you'll see our 3 shapes there. So if you ever want to make a change in the future, you could go back down to Combine and click on Undo Unite. And you would not be able to do that with the weld. So that's why I like to use Unite. So if I make any mistakes, it's easier to fix later on down the road. So now we have our Crafting Queen SVG here, and we're gonna cut this out in some pink heat transfer vinyl, but you can use any color you want. So if I go over to Operation, we can change the color here. You can even go to Advanced Settings and pick a different color and find one that closely resembles the vinyl you're using, just so you can get an idea of what this is gonna end up looking like. Now the colors on the screen don't necessarily have to match the colors you put on your mat, because we're not printing this out, we're cutting it out. So it really depends on what color you put on the mat. So if you want to cut this out and you made it pink on the screen, but then you put orange vinyl on your mat, your image is obviously gonna be orange. So we want to size this image here so it goes on top of our keychain. Right now this image is going behind and I want it in front. So there's two ways we can move that to the front. You can either go to Arrange and Bring to Front and click on that, or you can go over to your Layers panel and grab that layer, Crafting Queen, and bring it right up to the top. So now our Crafting Queen SVG is in front. Now you'll notice there is an arrow in the layers panel beside the word Crafting Queen, and you'll notice that there's a whole pile of layers going on here in this SVG. We want all of these layers just to be one. So we're gonna go down to Combine, and you definitely can click Weld for this, or you can do Unite. It's totally up to you. So I'm gonna click on Unite, and now all those layers will cut out together rather than separately. So now all we have to do is size this. So we're gonna make sure it fits on our circle here. You can make it whatever size you want, just don't go any bigger than the circle we have. So I'm sized at a width of 2.272, and I'll leave it at that. I'm actually gonna cut our keychain template here out with black faux leather. So if you want to see what that looks like, we can go over and change the color of that. Let's make it black. You can put your bright pink on top of that, and that's what our keychain will look like. Well, this will actually go at the bottom and this is gonna fold over. So you get the idea though. So there's one more thing we're gonna do before we go and click on Make, and that is to add your initials to the back. So go over to Text and click on that. I'm gonna type out NK, and then you can make this font whatever font you want to make it. So if you go up to fonts, we can change the font. If you have Cricut access, you can change it to almost any font that Cricut has on here. Some of them do cost money. If you don't have Cricut access, you can go over to the filters. You can filter out the free fonts and click on free. Then you'll be presented with all the fonts that Cricut has that are free for you to use. Now, sometimes these change from time to time. So some fonts may be free 1 week and then later on you go to use that same font and it might not be. So that changes once in a while. So just be aware of that. You can also click on System at the top, and these will be all the fonts that you have already on your computer or fonts that you have uploaded to your computer. I'm gonna go back over to the Cricut fonts. I do have Cricut access, so I already pre-selected one, and I'm gonna do one called Gelato. So here it is right here, Gelato Fresco. So I'm gonna click on that, and there's my new font, and I think that looks kind of cool, but you can pick whatever font you want to pick. So let's change the color so it's the same as Crafting Queen. So I'm gonna click on that, we'll make it the same color, and that way it will cut out on the same mat. If I were to make this a different color, I would have to put my vinyl on 2 separate mats. So then click on your initials and size it down so that it fits within the circle. So when we press this, you can put this on straight if you want, you can put it on an angle, it doesn't really matter. And now we can go ahead and click on Make. So on our first mat here, we'll be cutting out our faux leather. And on our second mat, we'll be cutting out our heat transfer vinyl. So you'll notice how close both of these layers are to each other. A lot of people don't realize that you can move these layers around on your page. So after this is cut out, I'm gonna take a pair of scissors and cut between each of these designs just so that they're easier to weed. If I left them really close together, it does make it a little more difficult to weed. So I like to leave a space between my designs so I can get my scissors between both of those designs. And also because we're doing this with heat transfer vinyl, you don't wanna miss this step. Make sure you mirror your image. So underneath mat 2 here, it says mirror. Click on that little toggle there and you'll notice that your image now appears backwards on the screen, and that is what you want. Once you've done that, go ahead and click on continue. All right, I still have my second mat selected, and whatever mat you have selected, that's the design your Cricut's gonna cut out. So make sure you click back on that first mat again. And then under set base material, you'll have a pile of materials listed here. These are the ones I have bookmarked. If you click on popular, these are a bunch of popular settings. Chances are you're not going to see faux leather here, but you might. Actually, mine shows it right here. But if you don't see faux leather on this page, go ahead and click on Browse All Materials, and then you can type in the word leather. So there are a bunch of different leather settings here. We're actually going to pick the first one at the top here that says faux leather paper thin. And this is actually a Cricut material setting. So you'll see the little Cricut C beside it. So that means that this setting was made specifically for Cricut's faux leather material. Now, I do have some of Cricut's faux leather material, and I'll be using that for this project. However, on their website, sometimes I see it there, sometimes I don't. So I'm not sure if they'll continue to sell their faux leather or not, but I really do like the product. And I find it great for being able to add iron-on material on top of it. So that's the setting I'm going to select and then click on Done. You'll notice under the Load Tools and Materials that it suggests to use the fine point blade. So you don't need to use any special blade for this project. You're just going to use that blade that came with your Cricut machine. Now, if your blade is starting to get dull, I do recommend you put a new blade in your machine so that the material cuts out well. For this project, you can either use one of the purple strong grip mats, or I'm just going to use a standard grip green mat, but just make sure your mat is sticky. This one has lost a little bit of its stickiness, but I'm sure it will still work for today. Make sure the material you place on your mat is large enough to cover the area of your faux leather design. And if you find that your material isn't sticking too well to your mat, mine's sticking pretty good, but I highly recommend getting a brayer. This is one of my favorite tools, and it's great for all material that you put on your mat, and it really helps it stick well to your mat. I went a few years without having one of these, and when I got it, I wondered why it took me so long to buy one. Highly recommend this tool. I use it all the time. Once your material is on your mat, go ahead and load your machine, following the prompts on your screen and pressing the flashing buttons. This project will only take a few seconds to cut out, and your Cricut will do 2 passes around your design, and when it's done, you can unload your machine. And then we can peel our faux leather here off the mat, and you can see it cut out just perfect. No problems at all. Look how cute that is. We're gonna be folding it over like this once we assemble our project. So now we need to put our heat transfer vinyl on our mat. I'm gonna use this color here, light pink. So for our design, we need about 3 inches of vinyl. So I'm going to cut this down to size here. And when using heat transfer vinyl, you always want to make sure that shiny side is facing down at the mat, and then the dull side will be facing up at you. So we're going to place this on our mat. Make sure you have enough to cover your design area. And again, you can grab your brayer and press that down on your mat. And before we put this into our machine, we need to change our cut settings first in Design Space. This time we're going to set our base material to Everyday Iron-On. I have this one bookmarked. It should probably also be under Popular. It's right there. But again, if you don't see it, you can go ahead and browse all materials. Once again, we're using our fine point blade, so you don't need to change anything there. And we can go ahead and get this cut out. Once your design is cut out, we can go ahead and peel that off the mat. And then you can grab your scissors and make sure you can see where your design is. Sometimes it's a little tricky to see, but you can also feel and you can cut off that extra vinyl that you don't need and save your scraps. Don't throw them out because you can use this for another project. This scrap piece is actually bigger than my piece right here, so I could definitely use this for more keychains or another project. And then we have those two designs here. You probably can't see that, but I'm gonna cut right in between the two of them so that I can weed them out separately. And if you still feel like you got too much extra vinyl there, you can go ahead and snip that off as well. Then you're gonna take a weeding tool and weed out all the negative. So you can start in the corner and peel that back, and you can use your fingers just to pull back that extra vinyl. And that was just super easy to do right there. So let's weed out our other design here. I'm using a weeding pin pen, and this is actually my favorite weeding tool. You can use whatever weeding tool you have on hand, but if you're looking for a tool that works well for practically everything, I definitely suggest the weeding pen. If you're having a hard time seeing where you need to weed out your design, you can open up your image in Design Space again so that you can see exactly where you need to weed. Also, good overhead lighting is super helpful. And yes, I know these rings I created on the side can be very tricky to weed, but there is a gap on either side of the crafting queen, so that's where I suggest to start. So try to pick that up. And then you can pull that little piece with your fingers, or you can use a pair of tweezers if you find that works better. Sometimes that can be helpful as well. So start on both sides so you can see that gap, and then it's going to be easier to find where you need to weed on the other parts of the circle. And there's the vinyl all weeded out. So now we're going to assemble our keychain together. I have my Cricut Easy Press Mini here. I'm going to put it on low heat and let that warm up. And then I'm going to grab my faux leather and just quickly clean it off with a lint roller. And I have some scrap paper here because we're going to be gluing this and I don't want to get glue all over my mat. So I'm using the E6000 glue. I normally buy clear, but somehow I ended up with white this time. So I'm sure this will work just as well as the clear. So what we're gonna do is put the glue all on the inside. Don't put any glue on the tab here, just over here. So you'll want to try to get it as close to the edge as possible, but at the same time, you don't really want it oozing out too much. If you want, you could get a popsicle stick or a toothpick and help spread the glue around once you've put it on. And then once your glue is on, go ahead and fold your keychain in half, and then make sure you get all the edges lined up. This glue is very easy to manipulate while it's still wet and not hardened, so you'll have time to make sure everything is perfectly lined up. And I really like this black faux leather because the inside of it is black as well, so you're not getting a white edge around the outside of it. And then I'm gonna grab a small piece of parchment paper and place it on top, and we're gonna preheat our fabric. My heat press here is warmed up now. So I'm just gonna go over this for a few seconds. This is also loosening the glue up a little bit. So if you find your design isn't quite perfectly lined up, you can do that now as well, and you can move that around to make sure everything is perfect. It's also going to spread that glue that's in between outside towards the edges so that you get a really nice seal. So now you can grab your Crafting Queen design, and we're just going to place that on top. Try to center it as best you can. And then grab that piece of parchment paper. You can put that on top. and we're gonna press for about 10 seconds. I actually find putting HTV on faux leather goes rather quickly, so you don't have to overdo this. Sometimes even 6 seconds works out fine. So if you're not familiar with the heat transfer vinyl you're using, you can test it out a little bit. All right, let's see how we did here. So it looks like it's on there. You can grab your carrying sheet here and then just pull that back. And there is our keychain. I just love that. I love how the pink just pops on the black. And then we can flip this over and you can grab your initials that you weeded out and you can put it on straight, you can put it on sideways. Let's do sideways, it's kind of fun. Stick that on there. And then we're gonna do the same thing and press the design on for about 10 seconds. And I'm giving this medium pressure, not pressing super hard. I'm just moving my press gently around for about 10 seconds. All right, let's see what this looks like. And there it is. And here's the other side. And this is just such a cute keychain. I just love it. We have one more step though. We need to grab a key ring and just slide that on there. Look how cute that is. So let's hop back onto the computer and start our next keychain. We're gonna start off with a new project and you're gonna type out your name. So go over to text. I'm gonna type out Nisha and then choose any font that you want. I'm gonna go with Gelato Fresco. And this is a Cricut Access font if you want to use that one, or you can pick any other font you want. It doesn't matter if it's a script font or not, you choose the style that you like. I'm gonna resize my name at the top to make it 2.8 inches. And then we're gonna add an offset around the name. So go up to the top, click on offset, and you'll see a blue line going around my name here. And you can make that bigger or smaller. I'm gonna go with the size of 0.125 inches, but you can create yours bigger if that's what you like. And then click on apply. So our offset here, which is black, will be the faux leather that we cut out. And my name over here, we're gonna cut this out of heat transfer vinyl. And I think I'm gonna do glitter heat transfer vinyl for this one. And maybe I'll do some type of pink color again because I love the way pink looks on black. So you can place that on top to get an idea of what it will look like. Now go ahead and select your offset that you just created. We're gonna duplicate that. So above the layers panel, you can click on duplicate. I'm gonna bring this beside my original offset. And then we're gonna go up to flip and we're gonna flip this horizontally. So that way, when we fold our faux leather in half, everything will line up where it should be. So now we need to create a little tab in the middle so we can attach both these offsets together. So go over to shapes and grab a square. We're gonna unlock this square at the top and we're gonna do a width of 1.3 inches and we'll do a height of 0.35 inches. So there's our tab over here and you can zoom in if you want to see a little better down at the bottom left. And we're gonna have this tab just overlapping both of the offsets. So bring your name in a little bit. And when you're happy with the distance, we need to line everything up. So I'm gonna select both those offsets and the rectangle, go up to align and center vertically. So now everything is lined up perfectly. However, I don't really like where my tab is. I don't want it to be right in the middle, so I'm gonna bring that up just a little bit, just because I've got that loop there at the bottom and I don't wanna take away from that. Your name may look completely different depending on what font you use and the name that you have. So you may have to play around a little bit with where you want your tab to be. Just make sure it is overlapping both of your offsets. Once you're happy with the position of everything, we're going to select both those offsets and the little tab we created. Go down to the bottom right, click on Combine and Unite. And that's all we need to do. So now we can go over and click on Make. And just like before, we're going to cut out our first mat with faux leather, and our second mat will be heat transfer vinyl. And because we're doing heat transfer vinyl again, we need to mirror our image. And then click on Continue. Click on that first mat again. Go to Browse All Materials and type in leather and select that faux leather setting and click Done. I'm going to use my leftover material from the last keychain we made, so I don't need to get a new piece, and put that on the mat. And let's get this cut out. So here is our faux leather all cut out. And I've changed my mind on what color I want to do for my vinyl, and I decided to grab a scrap piece of glitter vinyl that I have. Make sure you put it with the shiny side facing down. I'm gonna get this nice and stuck down here with my brayer, and we'll have this cut out. Make sure you change your material settings. This time we're doing glitter iron-on. And here's our heat transfer vinyl all cut out. And now all we need to do is weed it out. And then we're just gonna assemble our keychain the same way we did before. We're gonna grab some glue and put it on, and then we're gonna use our Easy Press Mini again and add the vinyl. And once again, make sure you're not getting any glue on your tab there in the middle. Now, normally when I use my Easy Press Mini, I use a heat mat as well, but because this material has a bit of a thickness to it, I'm not too worried, and we're not pressing that long. So that's why I'm just doing it on my mat here. But normally if you are using a heat press, make sure you do have a heat mat underneath. So I'm just preheating this for a few seconds. And then let's put the name on top. And then I'm gonna throw some parchment paper on top, and I'm gonna heat this for about 10 to 12 seconds should do it. And again, I have my Easy Press Mini set at low. And let's check this out. Oh, this looks so cute. I just love the way this looks. We do need to add a key ring to it still. And this would just be such a cute little item to add on top of a gift rather than a name tag. Or you could use it at a place setting at dinner, or use it as a stocking tag, and of course a keychain as well. Here's a bunch of other name keychains I made with different fonts and different colors and different types of vinyl. So you can change this project up however you want and really personalize your keychain. I really enjoyed crafting with you today, and I hope to see you on more crafting adventures.